Hey, Angela, how are you doing?
Hey, Sally, I'm good. How are
Doing?
you
Can you hear me
doing?
okay? I think we've got a little bit of delay in the internet going here. I've got my computer's been kind of going in and out of connectivity. So good to have you here. And we're live on the Shout Your Cause page, which is my latest platform. I did start it a couple of years ago, but I never really knew exactly the direction I wanted to take it. So it just kind of sat there and marinated for a while.
Sounds like a good
Yeah,
investment.
you know, it is what it is. So tell me, you've been someone that I've always been inspired by, whether you know it or not. We met several years ago in Kimra Luna's program, right? That's
Yes.
her
You
origination,
could be
right?
right.
And the only thing I remember is that somehow you reached out to me about something. And I don't know if it was the Blab days. Were you ever online with me on Blab?
Yeah, we did a blab together back in the day.
Okay. Oh my gosh, that was 2015. Can you believe it? And yeah, because that was the year I went to Iceland with my family for 2 weeks and came back and everybody was using Blab. And I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, it was Periscope, Blab. There were so many that were like competing to be
Yeah.
so cool.
Akila says, hey. So Akila's going to
Hey.
be, there's Akila Tompkins Robinson. She's going to be meeting with me this Saturday. So we're going to be talking. So I think what happened was we talked one day and you said, oh, I do reputation management. Take me back to that time because
I
that's
haven't heard that in years. Oh my God. I'm like slightly like blushing with embarrassment. Slightly. Okay, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. And at the time, I did do reputation management. And at the time, I also really loved Scandal and Olivia Pope. And so I thought, what if I could do that for the internet? So when
yeah,
we just had nothing horrible, of course, it couldn't be a horrible crime. But I thought, well, there are white collar crimes and there are like simple things out there that really ruin folks' lives for just one bad mistake. And we all make mistakes. So maybe I
right.
can help them get a new start. And so it was really the transformation from that was my social media business that I transitioned into reputation management because that's the core of reputation management is because it's through social. And then that's just so strange that you told me that that's when we were around each other. And since then I've morphed into owning an investment company. And I know it seems so disjointed, but what happened was I had an epiphany that I hated social. Like, not us doing social in this way. I love the connection, but I hated that people would just be on it all the time and they wouldn't necessarily be growing as people or talking to the people around them and their family,
Right.
friends, and creating real, genuine relationships, just kind of monitoring people's lives. So, anywho, I got on a soapbox and I was like, you know what? I actually feel a lot better when someone's on Facebook or Instagram because I get paid from it. And then I would, and people say, like, what do you mean you feel better? And I said, well, I own it. I own stock in the company. So, if I put my emotions aside, it's actually helping me get to my goals by you wasting your life. So from there, folks were like, wow, can you show me how to do that? And then
Yeah.
my company was born. And so it's literally been 5 years since that old Olivia Pope Reputation Fix It. It was called the Reputation Fix It.
So the Reputation Fix It.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Because you were talking to me about something and I was just like, what does she do? And I remember I went to your website and something had happened. It had either gotten hacked.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was like, Angela, I went to your website and it's got all this crap on it. What is this? And you were just like, oh my God. And then I never heard from you. I was like, okay. All right. So yeah, segue. And then next thing you know, investment goddess, you come forward with this new business. And what do you consider yourself right now as far as your title and what are you doing?
Well, I'm still doing investing. So I'm really happy with that part of my life. I've merged my inner yogi I'm always about happiness, right? So throughout my life, if it doesn't make me happy, if I can't find a way to make me happy, then I truly question what's the point of it all.
Yeah.
And so I'm a very what's the point of it all kind of person, if you can't tell already. And so for me, I look at investing as another path to abundance. And so I'm not the technical numbers kind of dweeby person. I actually have a degree in philosophy. But I did work in business for a while. And I remember thinking, why is it so hard to understand how to make money? Like, I just want to know how to make money. I went to go work at Goldman Sachs. I still don't, I know money exists, but I don't know how to bring it to me. And so then I started looking at investing in the stock market. And I thought, this is really simple if you think about it in a simple way and if you relate it to life. And so that's still what I do. I relate investing in the stock market to everyday life principles. And that's how I teach my lessons. And even right now, I'm learning day trading, and it's like super technical. And I'm already like, oh, I can't wait to learn this so I could unlearn it and like teach it my way.
Yeah.
It really can be very liberating, like taking on a short-term relationship almost. I look at it as dating too. Like you're just dating someone for a day and then you drop them. And it's like, okay, it was fun. And then you just leave. And then you both made money. They made money because you gave them money. You made money because you lent them your money. And it just feels good. And so that's kind of now the space that I'm in. And I'm leaning more and more into the abundance side of it and using it as a tool to get to your destination versus stressing about money. I think if people stress about it, a lot of people do, rightfully so, because it's kind of what gives us access to the things we enjoy. But it's also not the only thing it's not the point of it. And so I'm really big on detachment, but also making money. It's a very interesting dynamic. But yeah.
Speaking of money, speaking of the stock market, I've made some bold moves yesterday specifically, and maybe the day before. And then there's more moves coming. Hey, there's LaShonda saying hey, and Akila saying hey. So I don't know them. What would be, if you were going to give somebody advice right now who had a lot of money in equities, in stocks, mutual funds, whatever going on right now, what advice would you give them right now, considering we've got this freight train on fire coming across the country with COVID? And we'll let Amanda up in a second after you answer this.
All right. So one is don't freak out, right? So I want you to think of it as if you're in this for a longer term game, in the sense that you realize that what you have in the stock market, your life can relatively still be the same tomorrow or the day after, like you do not need it to pay your day-to-day bills, then this is actually quite a good opportunity. And I'm like looking over at my whiteboard on the floor because about 3 months ago, I did this huge like diagram whiteboarded out with like double humps. And right now we're in like the double hump. And for me and a lot of my students, even though right now this train that's going across the states, I think for the folks who didn't invest as much as they wanted to, like 3 months ago, because we're all really nervous, what it has shown me is that the market is so resilient that in the midst of a pandemic, it still almost got right back to where it was pre-pandemic. And
mine's higher than it was.
Or even higher, yeah. And a lot of companies are like taking off and soaring. And so if you're an entrepreneur, entrepreneurial spirited, we have such a huge advantage because the companies that we use, guess what? They're doing fine. It's like everyone finally came to our closed door party that we've been on for years. Like everyone's now talking about hosting things online and doing Zoom and online conferences and email marketing and all of these things, Facebook ads. And we've been doing it forever, right? I mean, forever being like 5-10 years, but still for folks to get into the party. So the market dropping, even right now as it's dropping and correcting itself, that's what it's called when it does this every now and then, you have an opportunity to buy more for less. So if you do have heavy investments, my goal is just stay there. Hold, it's going to ride back up. And if you're so inclined to be bold, buy more because it's on sale.
I can see that. I have another theory though. I want to bring Amanda up here before we go into that. Amanda.
Hello.
Have you guys met before?
No, I don't think I've ever met you.
No.
I
Hello.
recognize your name on the internet streets, but
That's good. I get that pretty often, so I'm actually happy about that.
Yeah, you never know. People will say to me too, they're like, "Oh, I know who you are," and I'm like, "What did I do?" You know, I'm just blogging over here and running ads, but whatever. People somehow think you're famous if you're Facebook famous, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Well, Angela and I have been talking a little bit about her background, and when we first met, she did reputation management, but now she does this investing type of thing. But I want you to continue on. We'll go back to them to like the current situation right now and what I'm thinking about it. But what about, are you also working somewhere like for the man kind of a thing in a corporate situation,
I'm like,
Angela?
what?
Are you
Yeah.
only your thing?
My thing. So I've not had a W-2 for 10, almost 11 years. And I swore it off. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure this out, because I'm never asking someone for vacation days ever again in my life.
Exactly.
That was the breaking point. People have different breaking points. That was mine, getting my PTO request denied. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Wow.
I dedicate like 80% of my life to you, and I just want like 3% back, and this is what you tell me?
Yeah.
I was like, you don't care about me. And so, no, I've actually been fully in this business for the past 5 years. It's been able to support me since it's always been in the green. So I'm a big advocate of not taking on excessive debt without a plan to pay it back. If you want something, make the money first, then go buy it. Huge advocate, especially in business, because a lot of us entrepreneurs take on a lot of debt for our business and we think it's an investment. But because I actually deal with investments, I know which one is. It's one for reasonable expectation of return.
Yeah.
And so unless you have a proven concept to put that in, it's not. It's just your spending. So anywho, my business has doubled year over year since over the past 5 years, right? And so I've been just purely on that. Right now, what's really beautiful is that the business revenue is actually on par with my husband's salary and bonus. And so it's kind of really beautiful to be at the table on my terms with like this. And it's, I still think it's even more valuable than a job, because what I put in is what I get out. Necessarily, when you put into your job, you may not get that out, right?
Right. You're just going to get the same paycheck.
Yeah, it's just another paycheck. It may be like a 5 or 10% bonus if you're lucky, but when you break that out hourly, it's really nothing. And so, and I really don't work very much. Like honestly, really, truly, especially since quarantine, COVID, watching a 2-year-old. And so, yeah, I am, to your point, full-time in my business and just trying to grow it, just trying to continuously grow it and impact people. That's, I think once I focused on that, before I was quite scattered doing lots of different businesses. But once I focused, like, no, this is the one. And don't get me wrong, every year I have an annual discussion. Maybe I should get a job and have coworkers so I can have real, like, I fantasize about having water cooler talk with people, like just talk about nonsense by a water cooler. I don't know why, but
I was the only one that spoke at work. I would go to try to pick up conversation, and it was like
no one wants to talk. Everyone's like, just do your job.
I was an actuary. Come on, we were all at our computers.
Oh, you dry people.
Some did. They would entertain me, but I needed to talk a lot and to socialize a lot. But so going into the office was kind of depressing to me.
So now you don't. Are you still in your other roles? Are you 100% entrepreneur now?
I left in 2016. As soon as I launched my academy, it was scary, but I launched my academy, had a good launch, and then let that ride out. And about 8 months later, had another launch. And then it's just, it's been growing and building in different directions since then. And it's really strange how this has come about, but I feel like I'm really at the point now where I'm really doing what I need to be doing. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen next. I've got it's like a whole new thing that's building, but regardless of that, well, I'm an activist and an advocate. I'm writing a book, and I am developing some programs, and I I actually am in the running. There's a $10 million research fund for data scientists for a social justice project and a social, advocacy type project. And there are going to be 10 winners. And so I'm putting together a proposal for that. I did a big webinar yesterday on that and took all these notes. And I know exactly how to write the marketing side of this because proposals are marketing documents, if you will. And so I'm going to approach it the same way that I do a sales page and a proposal and all the things. And I made sure I got all their language. I'm doing all the things
research,
I have to do. And I've got all sorts of people doing research for me right now to find out different things just to make sure that the project I'm putting forth is actually viable. But this is all coming out of COVID. It is a COVID recovery social thing, and it's for anybody, it's for any place in the world. It's about jobs, entrepreneurship, and cities and towns. And I'm focusing mainly on the city-town side of it, but it has benefits in the job and entrepreneurial outlooks as well. So it's kind of like an all three focus. And I don't know if anybody will actually have a project that covers all three of their objectives. You're told to pick one.
Yeah.
But the one I'm picking has all three. So it's interesting. I'm just so hopeful. We'll see. I can't say anymore.
I think it's really cool. And I think that I like the idea of you incorporating all three because I'm thinking how many people would actually be as daring to do something like that. So it'll definitely make you stand apart of the crowd. But then at the same time, I do think that moving forward, you have to incorporate all three to not have the economic downside that we've been experiencing now, if it were to happen again in the future.
It also has a global aspect. And then I'm thinking of having one very disadvantaged part of the world to assist another disadvantaged part of the world in different ways with, it's I don't know, my head's just kind of about to explode with it. So I'm just trying to make sure that I focus and get the proposal done. So.
Yes.
Now, Amanda, I don't want to leave you out. I want to hear about you a little bit before we go deeper.
Sure.
Tell me your story. Give me your background.
Oh God, where do I start? So I would say that I started in, I guess you could say, the online world, right? In 2010. I was a kid. I was 17 years old. I'm still a kid, right? So
compared
10 years.
To me, yes, you are.
I know. Compared to everybody around me, I'm still a child, right? But yeah, I started in 2010, and that's when I got online. It was just more so for me like an outlet. I was just really bored, and so I said, "Let's go online. Let's see what's going on." And it was an entire world of people that were starting businesses. And a lot of them were even around my age, and especially for affiliate marketing, which is how I got started. There are a lot of 18-year-olds starting businesses, and I was like, "This is different." So that's where I started. And then fast forward over the years, I have learned how to do so many different things. I have a pretty strong grasp on the online world in terms of affiliate marketing, network marketing, coaching, consulting, like all of it, right? So like I can thrive in any business model. And then in 2015-ish, I would say 15 to 16, I decided to really take my skills and to transition that into a viable business. So I went from like hobby entrepreneur to like, okay, this is it. And that really came from the fact that I was laid off from my hotel job. And this story to this day, I just think it's kind of like God's humor, right? It's like funny, not funny. But I was basically pregnant with my second son, and I was looking for another job because I was like, I need enough income. We have another child. Remember, I have Irish twins, so they're 15 months apart. And I finally got a job interview, and I was so excited because I was like, I need more money. And then literally it was the first job was walking distance from the new job. And so I was like, this would be perfect. And so I literally signed the papers. I lied to you not. I signed the papers for the new job, right? And this is a secondary supplementary income. I walked up the street to the first job and they let me go, right? Yes.
Okay.
All in one, like within an hour, right?
Oh, wow.
Within an hour, not even one day, within an hour. I was irate because the supplementary income wasn't enough to do anything. So I basically went from having almost like 2 jobs for 5 minutes to having none, because I then turned down the new job and I was like, this can't do anything for my family. So it was at that point that unemployment was like, okay, you can't. Let me grab my son. He's calling me. 1 second.
You're fine. This is also part of the online business world. And what's funny is that people are figuring that out these days, the ones who've been forced to go home.
Yep, they are. Struggle is real.
Yeah, and it's a struggle because like when you go to the personal aspect of it, when you run a business from home, a lot of people expect you to pick up all these other things.
They do. They do. I definitely think it's been harder with the quarantine, with my husband home and my daughter home. And it's like before it's me in the house working, doing whatever I want, prancing around in my underwear till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then realizing they're coming back and put the clothes on and take a shower. And but
you're okay from here up though, right?
Yeah, always. So this is the thing too. It's just I think now I'm fine. I've adjusted, but in the beginning it was really hard. And then also scaling back hours to feed people for 3 meals a day versus say 1, or to pick up and do like way more laundry. And hi,
there's little one.
Oh, there he is. This is Solomon.
He
started the business. Right? So so literally I had to leave the second job, the new job too, because I was like, this can't take care of anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I just decided, okay, unemployment isn't going to give me anything, because they're like, well, you have a job, so we're not going to give you anything. And I'm like, it's not.
Wow, they're really not giving you anything.
Yeah, they were like, no. They gave me like 1 check, and then I was like, okay, so my phone bill got cut off. Everything was just like, it was like rock bottom, right? Like that was like my floor. And so I said, you know what? Maybe I should take these online skills and really do something with it right now. And over the course of a month, it was literally 33 days because I tracked it. I literally just invested in a sales course, because that was always like the part that I was not really comfortable with.
The closing of the deal.
Yes, I was just how do I do this? I don't know. So I paid $97 of the $625 that I had left, and I invested in a course. And for 33 days, I sold every single day from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. Right. And by the end of that month, I had $39,000 in sales.
That's great.
There you go. And was that affiliate stuff, or what was that?
So I was really helping entrepreneurs like understand the online, like the online market and how to basically position themselves, and like
so a business coaching thing. Not you weren't selling like a product or an affiliate marketing link.
No, I wasn't selling products or affiliate market, because like I didn't have anything yet, right? I was like, I need to first validate what people actually need and just do basically very bite-sized offers to really figure out like what I want to do. And I knew I was just going to only sell things I could help them with. So like their website, because I learned how to build websites, and understanding like brand messaging, which Sally, is like my sweet spot. And so, and copywriting, like all of those little skills that I acquired, I was just basically meeting up with different entrepreneurs, pitching them and seeing how I could help them. And then I would just continue doing projects until I eventually figured out who I really wanted to help. So that's what I was doing when I first started out.
So talking about who you really wanted to help, and I want to hear from both of you on this, have you really focused in on the type of client, like where you can really tell their story and say, this is my client, the ideal client avatar, the true thing? Because when we first start, we're all kind of just picking everything that we can.
Yes.
And we learn really hard, the hard lessons about who we don't want to work with, who we do want to work with, and who we can actually help. Because there's some people that no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to help them. Now, maybe this person could, or that person could, or it's something about them that they need to step into. But whatever it is you do, you're not going to be able to help everybody. And there's always that sweet spot about who it is. So who would you say? Either one of you.
Yeah. So for me, I used to be of the belief system that my expertise was based on, because I was working with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? So it was kind of like B2B, even though working with entrepreneurs who were the only decision maker is not true B2B, right? And like we need our own term for what that is. But I focused a lot of that time saying, okay, I can help you based on where you are in your business. So, you know, I was saying, okay, I can help startups and I can help those who are in the late startup phase who either need to learn how to acquire clients, because I could do that really well to the tune of 300 people a year. Or I can help people who were like, I have some clients and I need to basically figure out like a predictable way of doing that. And so like I approached my niching very differently than a lot of people do. And I focused on where they are in business, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm working with moms, or I'm working with, you know, this type of person. So I focused on like, okay, where they were in the journey versus like who they were.
Yeah. But didn't it take you a little time before you figured that out?
It did. And to be completely honest, like I figured it out because I honestly would go into the coaching and consulting world online, and a lot of stuff that they were saying just didn't make sense to me. Right. And what I meant by that, I was like, this just seems like there's a gap here. When I would ask even my sales coach, I would ask her, well, how do you pre-qualify leads? And she was like, well, you basically have them fill out an application form and that's how you pre-qualify. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So then I went away from the coaching and consulting world and I went into what the Fortune 500 companies were doing, and I would start watching their webinars. And then that's how I learned how to do my niching. So it kind of took me a little bit of time, but I feel like it didn't take me as long because I went to where it was proven. And I said, the way they're doing it actually makes a lot of sense, you know, and they were focused on like the different phases of business and how you can help an entrepreneur or a business owner based on where they are. But then I kind of put myself in a box for several years, because then I was saying, okay, a startup, I was talking to people who thought they were established, like they were startups. So it's kind of like they believe that, okay, because I was making $100,000 a year, I'm an established business. In the coaching world, that's considered established. But I was like, you're not established. But you can't talk to your people like that and expect them to want to sign on to you. So then I learned a new way of positioning myself in front of them to like say, okay, you're like a late startup, right? But I wasn't even using that terminology anymore because I recognized they did not believe it. And it doesn't matter what I said, they just did not want to accept that. And so I started focusing
because they're making themselves a job, right?
Yeah. That's part of it. But also it's like, once you hit 6 figures in income, you've made it in the online world, right? Like your business is real all of a sudden, right? That's how there's this, I don't know where it came from, but a lot of people have this belief system that, you know, oh, like once I hit 6 figures, I have a real business.
Well, that's kind of like, if you've ever done network marketing, that's kind of like saying, well, if you reach the such and such level, then you've got it made. But what you find out is that you really just got to like step up to a whole different job.
Yes.
And maintain the other one that you had going as well at the same time. because you've got to start expanding and creating a team and procedures and delegating. And even when you do that, I mean, that starts eating into what you take home. And there's a period of time before that feels comfortable.
Exactly.
It's hard.
I think the six-figure thing came from because a lot of us had jobs before we became entrepreneurs. And I think growing up, it was like, once you get six figures, you've made it, you know, in terms of the growing up the corporate ladder.
The salary.
Yeah, six-figure salary. And I think because no one taught us how to be entrepreneurs in the old-fashioned sense, because our industry kind of online businesses came about just within the last couple of decades, there's no to-do list, there's no golden rail on how this, like, we are creating, we are the frontier of it. And so we're taking our past experiences and imposing it onto these new things that we're creating. And I think a part of that was this six-figure dynamic, because when you were making 45, 55, 60,000 bucks out of college, you were thinking like, man, if I could get to six figures, not being clear in the declaration of it, saying that I want to make at least 250,000 or 500,000 net, right? Not saying those things, but just thinking, once I get to six figures, everything's going to be better. I can afford this car. I can get a new house. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're forced to think bigger. There's your business, and then there's you. And I think when you're starting as an entrepreneur, you think they're the same. But if you're thinking about
but they're not
business, they're different.
Well, and think about it. You've got to pay for your own computer. You have to pay for your benefits. You have to pay for your software and anything else that you pay for in your business. And goodness gracious, if you've got a brick and mortar, you've got rent or mortgage or whatever that may be. But just even these online people, they don't realize how many things you actually need. And so then they start taking on the email marketing software and the Facebook ads and the, whatever other software you need to be able to do the online thing. And then the time investment, the time is so much more when you don't know exactly your path until you figure it out. Of course, at this point, I do work most all day, every day, but I walk for 2 hours. Some of that is me just thinking, and I literally will type into my phone while I'm walking. Of course, fortunately, the sidewalk is very flat in the park where I work, so I don't fall on my face. But that time for me is a thinking absorption sort of time. So it is considered work, but a lot of people would not necessarily consider that to be working. You know what I mean? Like working time.
Right. And I also think that, like you were saying, there's a difference between your business and you, right? But a lot of, part of what Fortune 500 companies say about the startup phase of a business is that if you have no exit strategy, doesn't matter how much money you make, you're still in startup, right? And so it felt like saying that to an online entrepreneur who's like, how dare you? I make $200,000 a year, or I make $300,000 a year. Gonna go see daddy? Like, how dare you say I don't have a real business, right? And so I think that what has been helpful for me is to stop talking more about the phase of business and talk about the results that I've been able to achieve.
Yes.
So that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
So I recognize that when I started talking about the results that I've been able to achieve for people, and I just looked at it from that perspective, I was like, wait a minute, I can help people who are making $1 million a year. I can help people making $1. It doesn't matter, because everything now was focused on results. And then also the influx of people that started coming to me were different as well, because they're like, whoa, you actually, because again, I didn't even really talk about what it is that I do now. I'm a business process consultant, right? So the Google definition of that will tell you truly what I do. So a Fortune 500 company would 100% understand what I would do. And if someone was saying business coach, that doesn't really say anything, right? Like, what do you do? Are you coaching marketing? Are you doing advertising? What are you doing? But I specifically do business process consulting.
Okay.
Right? And so when I looked at it from that perspective, I said, okay, I now wanted to start building and focusing on those that were willing, right? Willing, and I would say willing to really put their business, or I would say really willing to put themselves out there and to build a big business, as opposed to someone who's just like, oh, I'm doing this as a side hustle, or I'm just doing this as another stream of income. And so I was looking for more of like the legacy builders and the visionaries and those types of people. And I would say if you were ever to ask me like who my niche is, that's probably the closest thing that you would ever get. It's someone who has a really big vision, who knows that they're called for more, and who wants to build that. And they just need to figure out the strategic how of making that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And also there to see if the methods that they're using are actually efficient.
Yeah.
They're, you know, a lot of times we can find efficiencies within what we're doing all the time. Now, your original background, though, I want to kind of go there too. You're not from the US, right?
No, I'm not.
Where are you from?
I'm actually born in Jamaica.
Oh.
I was born in Jamaica and I was raised by 2 Jamaican parents, right? And then I came here actually when I was about 2.5. So that's why there's not really that Jamaican accent.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that has a lot to do with my views on the world, because I didn't even become an American citizen until I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was actually considered an illegal immigrant until I was about that time. Right.
Good thing you did that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That's definitely true.
Scary.
And I feel like that has given me such color when I look at immigration, when I look at what other cultures are going through, because immigration is tough. Okay. It is tough as nails. My mother has since gone into actually becoming like an advocate for immigrants and helping them fill out their paperwork, because a lot of lawyers, even in the United States, don't know how to do it correctly. And
they can't afford the lawyers a lot of times. A lot of people can't, because it's every little thing. I helped a family to fill out theirs. There were 3 kids, and I think 2 of them, well, no, this was crazy. 3 kids. The oldest was able to fill out the paperwork. The middle child didn't hit some sort of cutoff, and the youngest child was born here.
Yes.
And I helped with the one child's stuff, and I was shocked at how difficult it was for me to understand in English, and all of the things that they had to have in their possession to prove certain aspects of it. It was unbelievable. And I actually was even scared to help her fill it out, the mom, because I was like,
you didn't want to mess up.
I was like, I can't mess this up, because you messed it up. That was it. And if you wanted to pay an attorney to help you with it, it was going to be a couple $1,000s, and the application alone was $400.
Yeah,
that was for DACA.
And that's just the first part of the application.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it was really tough from the very, like, I feel like my entire life in America has so much color, because I'm an immigrant, I'm a Black woman, I'm, you know, like, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm just like very, I feel like I'm a part of so many different minority groups. So
yeah,
right,
and a female CEO.
Oh yeah, that too, right? Like being a woman. There you go. Like just add that to all the different groups of things that you know. But like I also feel like that also just kind of drives me, you know, because I'm just like, you know, I can do all of it, and it's fine. And yes, there's a lot of people who won't agree, but I also recognize, like, you know, we are our ancestors' wildest dream, right? Like they would have never believed. They were like, oh girl, oh, that's just something you dreaming of, right? So it's just amazing. Like, and I don't take that for granted. And I think that just keeps me very grounded in terms of like what I'm achieving and just like kind of staying on the path, right?
Mm-hmm. Sally, you froze a bit. Did she, Amanda?
Yeah, she did.
Okay, well, so I completely agree with you in that regard as well. You know, for me, I'm a first generation, so my parents are West Indian as well, Guyanese specifically. But it's very interesting growing up in a. I don't want to say we're not different. We're not different. We're not different because when you come to the States, you find yourself in the same struggles as people who don't necessarily have the exact same background as you.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world doesn't see your heritage or your ancestry because they don't, you can't see it, right? Like you see Sally looks like whatever image we would think Sally looking in this form would have, like her life or someone
who really needs to go to the hairdresser.
Girl, we're not even going to talk about it right now.
I got COVID color right now.
We're not even going to talk about the nails. We're not going to talk about the feet right now. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about eyebrows. We're not going to talk about that. It's okay because we're saving a lot of money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, like I was saying with my parents, and I think that so much of what we have in our past is actually our inheritance, right? You know, for me, I didn't have a huge monetary inheritance, but I do think I am very wealthy and I got everything I needed to make that tangible in whichever way I wanted. And to your point about where our ancestors' wildest dreams, like I love that saying and I love that quote because there were times when I told my parents what I wanted to do and the vision that I had for my life, and they would just look at me and say, first, when I was younger, my dad would say, no, like you go to school and get an education. Like, where's my doctorate? Where's my law degree, Cookie? Like, I didn't come to this country for you to go kicking rocks everywhere. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think when they realized that their lives weren't working, that they weren't getting the American promise, you know, because I think a lot of people think that folks coming to the States are, not everyone is a person in need. Not everyone is a person who is like, completely disadvantaged. If you speak to quite a few immigrants, they have pretty good lives and a lot of them actually go back home after a while. It's just that the core premise of what our country was founded on was the ability to take nothing and make something is not something that's common everywhere. So even if you are quite wealthy someplace else, coming to the States just means you can take that acumen and make even more, right? And so that's also why I feel that even as we have a contraction of us allowing immigrants and people from other parts of the world, I do think it's going to hurt us in the end because people from other parts, a lot of them have such a drive. Like when I meet someone who is like working 20 hours a day, 2 jobs, I mean, truly out there hustling, it is so admirable to me because I'm thinking, what am I doing with my life? When I think about my parents and the struggle, my dad doing a corporate 9-to-5 job, working at part-time at a 7-Eleven to pay off my sister's like graduate loans so she could get her PhD, like that is sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And that's almost, you know, and what they're sowing into this country, my dad doing that, sowing human investments into it. I also think at the same time, this country's so beautiful because if we tap into that, what we are given as citizens, like the fact that you can invest in the stock market without having credit, without having, you know, millions of dollars saved up, and you can literally make something from almost nothing. Mm-hmm. It's like, if we focus on the things that we do have access to, you can create the world that you want. Like we didn't have to get small business loans and write a business proposal for our businesses. For most of us, we didn't. We just had an idea and we had the courage and we did it. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's just it, you know? And I think if we keep on following that, focusing on our core values of wanting to prosper together and create an external reality that's enjoyable for all of us, then we're going to all soar together. But it really hurts me when, you know, I was just talking the other day how much I miss the conversation of unity. Like it's just so, there's so much division, and not that it's not necessary because it is for us to get to where we need to go. But I truly do miss the conversations of like, we're all out here just trying to make a better world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And that's tough because we're in the middle of this pandemic movement, revolution, whatever it is that we're in right now. There's a lot of things that I don't know if it feels like a God thing, you know, when you think about it, when you step way back and you look in and you're trying to evaluate what's happening around the entire world, somebody's mad. and somebody's rising up, and it's like, okay, so now what's going to happen when the chips fall? Because and it's hard to manage. We're in the middle of this thing right now. And I wanted to get back. Angela, my internet kept going out a little bit, and so I knew what you were talking about, but did you mention that your parents came from somewhere else?
Yeah, I did. I'm from Guyana, and it's technically South America, but we claim West
Yeah.
Indian. It's a huge point in the West Indian community.
Okay, so one of my besties is from Guyana. And
amazing.
Yeah, and he lives here in Nashville, but he's moving to Florida. But you know, I haven't seen him in months anyway. So, but we met on Twitter.
Does he cook food for you? Does he ever cook curry for you?
No, he has not.
You should tell him to.
Oh my goodness, that's not right.
I need to reach out. I'm gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be.
So before you go.
Before you go, you need to
curry. Tell him you want some sorrel.
Okay, I will, because I'm a big foodie.
Be that
I
way.
feel like you would like sorrel, Sally. I feel like you would like it.
I probably would. I like curry. I like all kinds of international dishes. In fact, when we really hate to wait for seating to eat out in Nashville, which right now is not a deal, but before, it was just a pain to go to any popular restaurant or any new place. You would wait for 30, 40, 50 an hour, before you would actually sit down to eat dinner. But it's not like that at ethnic restaurants. And so we're always like, let's go over here. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And so we eat everything you can imagine, except for the typical American, restaurant or whatever. We don't go to any of the mainstream places.
That actually works out.
Yeah. My kids have always been, like that. And it's funny because if ever they have a friend over or something, and then we eat Indian food or we eat something else, it'll be like we have helped people have their first of this type of meal before, lots of people. It's like, wow, I didn't know that was even a thing,
Yeah, that's really cool.
So,
yeah, Jamaican food is huge not in my immediate family, because I married an American man, and he's a chef. So I don't cook really. So that stopped there. But like my aunts and uncles can cook for the gods, right? Like they are so great. And every Christmas and Thanksgiving we'll go and we'll eat with them, and they'll make all Jamaican food, and it's amazing. So I'm really I still get a taste of it. And then there's like Jamaican stores local to me where I'll go and order some food if I want something, and they know my mom, because my mom owns a tax and immigration business up the street. So it's just like a nice little way of like staying in the cultural aspect, and so I like it. It's good.
Where are you both located?
I am in Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia, actually.
Okay. Are you in Texas, Angela?
Yep, I'm in Dallas. Well, a suburb of Dallas.
Okay.
So,
but before, where were you when we first met?
I was in New York City. I'm
wow.
a New Yorker, born and raised.
Okay, that's right.
And now I'm a Texan. Which is the most polarizing thing to be.
So, Angela, I'm going to tell you something that I've done with my investments. And we have like 4 or 5 different managers. No, 3 managers, 4 or 5 different types of accounts. And a couple of them.
Wait, I teach investing in the stock market. So if everyone's like, why is she asking Angela? This is what I do for 5 years. And
yeah, because you're
highly
investing.
driven, aspirational people to do more with their money. So it's not tied to dollars and hours.
Before we move on, I do want to put LaShonda's thing up here. She says, Sally, you took us out to a different restaurant when we visited you. And like,
confirmation.
Yes.
I always do that. And people are just like, oh,
I'm like, where are we going, Sally?
Always good. I wouldn't go if it wasn't good. Okay, so we have like IRAs and we have, other stock accounts, et cetera, equities, mutual funds. I don't even know all the names, but I have taken a chunk of those and moved them over to not mutual funds, to money market funds. Mm-hmm. Everything that we had reached the highest point ever, maybe January-ish. I can't remember the
January. Did you move it in January or did you move it like as a result of Corona?
I removed it yesterday because it's back up. It's up higher than it was in January. Okay. So, but yes, we still have a lot more.
It fell a little bit, or
it was up. So
up is up.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the day before it might have been down just a little bit, but I'm talking like
it's been
it was tiny in comparison. So. From the beginning of the year, it was at a certain amount. Then, of course, it dipped really badly. And I didn't look at it. People were like, don't look, don't even open it. Just, I stacked the mail up and I didn't even file it away because I know when I file that I would see it all. So I just ignored it. Then I was dealing with a situation. I had like a little tiny bit that I had been saving for a long time to use in case I needed it with my mother, but my mom died 2.5 years ago. And I decided, okay, that money, it doesn't ever move. It just kind of just sits there. And I thought, I'm going to do something with that. And I sent it over to one of my managers and I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do dollar cost averaging investment. And I think I want to pick this particular fund that I want to put it in. And I had been talking to somebody about that. But then I found out that I was going to get charged $20 for every deposit. And I was trying to do $400. I was going to do $400 a week.
For this
So it didn't make sense at all. Huh?
The company was going to charge you.
Yeah. For this particular fund.
So go to, because it's a fund.
It was something, I don't know what it was. It was something weird. And even they didn't know, but they called me and said, okay, we just found this out and it's not normal, but I'm pretty sure you don't want this. And I was like, no, I don't. So just keep it in cash. Don't worry about it. But then I decided, because our investments actually, this was right when the 13% unemployment numbers came in at the end of May. And so then I didn't do anything with it. And the 13% made the market go up a bit. And then it came back down, a few days later. And then it since had gone back up again. And as of yesterday and the day before, all of my investments were not only fully recovered, but had a big bump above that. So we were very high. So I took a very large chunk and I stuck it in cash because we're talking about buying some property later in the year. We're thinking that the real estate market at some point, because it's been just boom, 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 up to ridiculous levels in this area. And so we're thinking we want to buy something when if the real estate goes down. So I went ahead and my internet just messed up. I went ahead and took that chunk out to move over. But now we've got about half of our investment still sitting with a manager and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. So I know that you're like, let's just ride this out. But when you're in my line of work, where I'm over here evaluating the COVID stuff, and dealing with a lot of international situations that are going on, I have this reservation about what may be coming in the fall, because the COVID situation is really, it's unprecedented, way more than what we've even been through in the last 3 or 4 months.
So I'm nervous about the fall, but it's not because of COVID. And the reason why is because there will probably be a vaccine in the fall. And once the vaccine comes in, then it's pretty much done, in the sense of it's similar to when we got the flu vaccine. It completely slashed the numbers. And so whether it truly eliminates it or not is not the question. It's what the perception of it is going to be. And so that's that. My concern for the fall is actually the election. And so,
well, yeah, that too.
So that's my bigger concern, especially when it comes to the markets. I think the housing crisis is going to come regardless, but it's not going to be the way that it was before. It may just go back to where prices were maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's not going to go back to 08, 09 prices, because that's not what's triggering this recession. And things have happened as a result of that last thing to make sure it doesn't happen to that effect again. And so it's not. Right now, it's going to be just people not being able to pay their bills and foreclosures happening. Sad to say, but that'll be the reality. And that probably won't happen for another, I don't expect another full-on year, because of the legislation that went through just recently, giving people incentives up until the end of the year. And there's a good chance that won't renew. And when that doesn't renew, then domino falls. But our economic standing right now, regardless of politics and what you believe, is fueled a lot by Trump. And if he does not get reelected, perhaps really good on the social side of things might not be the best on the market side of things, because he's very business friendly. And if you're an investor, you invest in businesses. And so that's more so, I do expect the market, the second if he doesn't get reelected, to respond to that in a negative way, or just not respond to it in a way where it's been increasing so rapidly.
Right.
And so, but at the same time, I think that in the quarter, we're still a quarter away from that. And so we still have opportunities to really explode financial wise. So I'm never a fan of liquidating everything, ever, because it's like I've had colleagues who 3 years ago said that something was happening and they liquidated all of their assets. And I was just like, you are such a fool. Like, you never take everything off the table. Like, even if you 70, you leave 30 just in case you are wrong. And so I'm still with this in the same mindset. You already took out half. Great. You're saving it. Keep the other half in play, perhaps for this quarter, see what happens. Take out another 25%. But the reality is you may not need this money for another like 10, 15 years anyway. And so I hate seeing money not making money. So
unless we decide to move, because we're talking about buying a neighborhood.
Yeah. And so that
build.
And so I would just say I would still keep it in as close as you get, because that's still going to be considered into like your DTI or your average worth. And so you'll be able to leverage that money more if it's invested based on like the proposed value of the investment, versus once you take it out, it's realized. And that's just a sticker amount that you have.
Yeah.
So when you're ready to take it out and do the neighborhood, you just want to make sure that the money that you're taking out couldn't have grown faster in the market versus the loan that you would have taken for it. The interest, considering interest rates are so low.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about paying cash. I mean, we're talking about, because we've got a business situation, we've got, all these other things. And granted, some of this stuff is kind of moving around just because we've got kids in college and we have one going to college after next year. And, so a lot of different things that we're having to actually deal with. Do what?
So this might be a good time to liquidate then too, because if they're going to get any form of financial aid, you can't.
Oh yeah, no, their college accounts, they've been in cash already. I mean, and I'm glad too, because we're fine with paying their college. it's just a matter of figuring out some of this other stuff and like trying to be like, when do we buy the investment? When do we sell our place here? Because we don't have a mortgage and we live in a condo downtown. And so it's a very, and it's doubled, since we bought it in 2009 during the crisis. But we don't want to be in a position where we turn around and we sell this place in another real estate crash. You know what I mean? Like if there's something like that. So I don't know what's going to happen with all of that, but the election is definitely a big part of it. There's a whole lot of pressure from around the world about what's going on right now. And just because I'm so close to the COVID situation and knowing the numbers and knowing what's happening in the various hospitals around the country, are we truly prepared to handle this? Because we don't even know what the pandemic is yet in this country as far as the disease management is concerned. We're about to find out. And so that's what I think is going to really drive the election in the fall. And I just would rather be prepared to just be where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
From the position that I'm in right now, I'm in a good position. So I would rather be prepared from this same
position.
Pardon?
And making decisions from this position.
Yeah, as opposed to not being able to make those decisions because of what's going to happen in the next few months. So,
I mean, there's that. I think there's a break off between the reality of what really happens and what the economics are between what happens. So what this pandemic has shown so far is that the market and investments don't really care about what's actually happening, and it really won't matter. Honestly, and quite frankly, it won't matter if it shakes out that the numbers, as we all know, COVID so far is rampant in African American, Latino communities. And so really, even if it gets at its worst, are the people in power going to care? And so they'll care, but is the stock market going to care? Are the investors going to care? And so that's what this has shown me, is even as during the BLM and a couple of weeks ago, as we were going through the injustices that our nation has inherently were being exposed and illuminated, the stock market rallied and had an all-time high. Like one of the recent all-time highs, in the midst of COVID, and there are people still, they celebrate having more people unemployed isn't a necessarily horrible thing, because that means companies are spending less money. And so I want you to really try to think about, well, what's the social side of this, impact of this? And then what is the economical impact of this? And is it going to be the same? And are people going to care the same? And so for me, it really is, yes, the election is important and that will sway it. But then at the same time, this market has proven to be, people are separating their money from their emotions more and more. Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying I would never recommend someone taking everything out. I mean, I love that the market's high right now. And if you want to sell, you probably could sell, because we all know something might be coming down the line, and you don't want to be caught where you don't have enough funds to buy because you're stuck in a investment that just isn't going to sell as high as it did before in the past.
Yeah. I mean, if it crashes really low, then I would want to come back in with bits, to be able to come back into it. So it's something that we're definitely dealing with right now on our end, just because of all of the various life decisions around it and this position we're in with the kids and with, just the fact that, we have our place. We're very fortunate that we have our place, but we do still have to pay ridiculous. Our property taxes went up 32%. That was voted on last week or the week before. So that's a huge, huge
How much
jump.
is
But
it? How much is your property tax?
it went up 32%.
What?
32%. It was voted on 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Yeah, because, we had the tornado that came through in Nashville
Mhm.
in
I remember that.
COVID, and then all of the downtown stuff that's been happening. And it was already a fiscal nightmare for the mayor that came in. There was a lot of what do you call it, deficiency, I guess, in the budget for the city, and the infrastructure has not been taken care of. We've had all these things that bring all these tourists here, but we don't, and all these people that have moved here. It's been like 180 people a day moving to Nashville for years in a row. So to have all of that to come in, and then to have all these things to happen, Nashville's not prepared for all of that. I mean, our traffic and everything, just it went like from country city to Atlanta overnight, and it just was ridiculous. So that, and the whole metro waste services and everything else too. So, but anyway, we've gone over time, and so I just want to make sure I don't keep you too long, because I feel like we could probably talk forever. But I did want to express the fact that I absolutely admire both of you, and whether you know it or not, I look at you and I think you've got all of these things in place. You are doing a similar journey to me in that you're figuring out where you're going with it, and you've actually landed on something that you enjoy doing, that you have expertise in, that you maybe just have these natural abilities for. And that's inspiring, because with my career, I'm much older probably than both of you. Like, my kids are older, in college. I'm almost empty nest, and I'm 50 years old. And so 25 years in corporate. So I have a very long history. I graduated college in 91. So imagine that. I'm older than you. So just to see all of these younger entrepreneurs who have so much promise and gift for the world, I just want you to know that I admire that in you, and it has kept me being able to go forward with this, because I have been ingrained in having to depend on corporate for so long, and it's not been an easy transition for me.
Yeah, no, and I thank you for saying that. I think that, like how we went from the Industrial Revolution to another way of how we were basically running society. I kind of feel like we're going through another one of those transitions.
Yeah.
And people are not really focused on that because they're thinking pandemic, right? But I feel like the pandemic, for lack of a better word, is a distraction to so much more, right? Even when it comes to, and Sally, by the way, just as a plug, like, I am in real estate. So, like, as you're talking about investing, I thought that was too funny, because I was like, oh, I could tell you all about the markets right now.
Okay.
And when to buy and when to hold. So, if you have some questions after, I'll be gladly, I can do some research for you really quick and let you know if you should hold or buy based on where you are.
Yeah, but not ready to buy right now. I know it hasn't gone anywhere right now, but
also like in just looking at the real estate, like, it's a 12 to 18 months, about a 12 to 18 month period before prices are going to start to drop dramatically.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about selling, you should be thinking about doing that within the next 10 months. Otherwise, just hold on to it, because you're just like, it's either that or hold on to it, because you're going to start losing money at that point. So I wouldn't, make too drastic of a decision if you're not going to be, planning on moving within the next 10 months. But one of the things I'm also noticing, as Angela was talking about with Trump and the election and what's coming up, and how specifically the Black and Latino communities are being heavily impacted by the coronavirus, is that that's absolutely what they want. And it's incredible to me that I'm looking at our political leaders, like the leader of the free nation, and seeing the amount of just the racism and then just the absolute disregard for human life. Like, there are literally still people, I know that with the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, people forgot that there are Mexican immigrants that are sitting in what I would call modern day concentration camps.
Yeah.
Right in the United States.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it's
so
terrible.
It's like, how is this our country?
And that's what I've got a lot of people around the world that I'm friends with because we're big travelers and we both went to school overseas. We've got lots of history with all of that. And then, of course, I have a lot of international friends who live here and business people that I work with overseas as well. And we're not looking pretty from the outside at all.
No, absolutely not.
and people are mad. People are mad, and I believe that is going to have an effect on us and our position in the world.
Yes.
Because of the UN and because of other things that are going on, and we're not going to be top dog in certain aspects of the world.
We're not importing our talent and knowledge anymore.
We've got a lot of things to clean up and fix here. We need to develop from the inside out, and I get that, but we've got to also have the support of the rest of the world doing it. And I feel like we're getting ready to have a nice big fat smackdown from other places. So that's also part of my investment position, if you will. And I just kind of want to sit in a different place. So we'll see what happens with all of that. And I do need to go and let you guys go because I know that we're way over time now, and I really appreciate you being here with me today. So let's definitely continue the conversation outside of this. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Angela or Amanda about investments or business or whatever that may be, these ladies know what they're doing.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Sally, for having me today. I appreciate you as always. And I know I need help with some ads because I'm working on that, and I know that's your wheelhouse. So definitely I will be.
You're getting into some messy space. I saw your question.
I know.
All right.
Thank you so much, Sally, for having me and for connecting. It was amazing catching up with you. I think we've all grown so much over the past couple of years, and I'm nervous but elated to see the next 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't even imagine or fathom it, honestly. And I think that makes me excited and also quite nervous.
Yeah.
It is. It's exhilarating, but it's like terrifying. It's like, what? Because it's so unknown. It's so different than how it's ever been that you're just like, I don't know. I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah. Like our imaginations, I just know it'll be so different. And things will come into existence that I just never imagined, and we'll adapt and we'll utilize that to our advantage. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we'll have like boss ass companies that are hopefully publicly traded.
That's right. And mine may look completely different than it is right now. Well, on the path I'm going right now. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Wow.
You never know.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, have a great day, ladies.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.